Good morning and welcome to the North Chapel. I'm Bob Williamson, Service Coordinator this Sunday, November 23rd, or as I prefer, October 54th. I love October, all those colors, even with the crowds. I tell family and friends that everybody should come to Vermont that time of year. And this year, it feels like they all came. Tatum Barnes is here today for our children right down here. Tatum, many thanks for all you do and all of your many assistants that help you out. Join us for coffee hour downstairs after today's service. A lot's going on in the church right now. Read over the announcement in the order of service. Are there any other announcements? I know there's a few that folks want to come up. Mary, come on up.
Good morning. We hope those of you who ordered wreaths will pick them up after church today. Down in the social hall, one of us will be there. And also, I think we have a couple of 22-inch and a couple of 36-inch if you forgot to order them and would like to get a wreath. So see me after the service. Thanks. Pledge! I'm here to represent the Board of Trustees and the rest of the church. We're doing our pledge drive right now. We have, it says 50,000. We're up to about 56,000 now. I have to say, I'm sorry to say that's actually not very good. We really need more. So if you haven't pledged yet, please do what you can. We need to be able to pay our minister, our office administrator, our beautiful music providers, and our heat and electricity and other things as well. So it's really important that we do it. And remember, you don't have to pay anything now. It's a pledge to give money next year. So at your places, there's also some envelopes like this. You can put in your pledge or whatever you wish. There's a form, you should have gotten a letter in the mail, but if you did not, if you've lost it, there's more of those letters in the back, and on the back page of the stapled together material is a form. So you can fill out the form today if you'd like and put it in this envelope. And we would very much appreciate it. I think that's all. And now a word from our sponsor. Lemon Pledge, very pretty, very fresh and very good. Lemon Pledge, when you're dusting, adds new luster to your wood.
That covers just about everything, I think. That was terrific. Couldn't do better. It's the dark time of year now, and we're living through a dark period of our history. So I wanted something light today for our opening words, hence the lighthouse on the cover of today's order of service. It's Nubble Light at Cape Nettic in York Beach, Maine. Raise your hand if you've been there and seen it. I love it. It's really beautiful. And I especially love a story about it. Back in 1931, the lighthouse keeper had a Maine Coon cat named Mr. T, who, get this, would swim the 100 feet ashore, catch mice, swim back, and share his bounty with the keeper. True story. I checked out the story when I was there in October catching some waves, and that story is true. Our theme this month is generosity, reaching out to others, and stretch beyond what we thought possible. That cat, Mr. T, showed generosity in his feline way and went against the cat's natural aversion to water. We can too. Okay, this is kind of lightweight, I get that. That said, life is too serious to be taken seriously all the time. We need humor and lemon pledge. No, we need humor. We need humor to leaven life, get us through the rough spots. Even last Sunday's New York Times had a piece on the importance of comedy and comedians in dark times to crack us up and crack the wall of darkness that seems to encroach us. We have a term, comic relief, and we recall the value of gestures in the court of kings. The ancient Greeks knew the value of comedy. It was right up there with tragedy. The great British Shakespearean actor Edmund Kean was on his deathbed when a visiting friend said, "Oh, Edmund, dying must be so hard." Kean replied, "Dying is easy, comedy is hard." The apocryphal version of the Egyptian Book of the Dead says, "Bring your gag writers. Eternity is a long time without laughter." In that spirit, I want to share a poem by Billy Collins. A few past service coordinators have read Collins' poem, The Lanyard, a brilliant and heartfelt piece brimming with humor. Remember, Billy Collins was a U.S. Poet Laureate, a lofty post. You don't get there being mediocre. I hope I can read this without laughing out loud. If there is an afterlife, I aim to bring this with me. The poem is titled Magical Realism, and it's a respectful nod to the brilliant novelist Gabriel Garcia Marquez, who invented magical realism in his fiction. The poem Magical Realism. It's a rainy Saturday night in London, and I'm already losing it, and many of the male dogs have gathered at their favorite pub, the Ball and Stick, where they lower their heads to drink from the bowls of ale, for this is not an off-the-wall cartoon where they would be leaning on the bar, holding a pint of glass impossibly in one paw. No, this is just a bit of fiction, but not by a fantasist of South America, where many strange things are done. And that's why the dogs are not smoking cigars or playing darts or gossiping about their owners, nor is there any laughter, no sports on the telly, no backslapping, which would require standing up all night on your hind legs. And that's also why it's so quiet for a Saturday night with your mates, unlike the clamor down the lane at the Axe and Hammer, or around the corner at the King's Piston. Here it's just the low sound of lapping and a round of barking every time a new dog happens to walk in the door. Yes, on all fours and without a stitch of clothes.
Years before I went to seminary, I was asked to lead a service at the Star Island Chapel, the chapel at Star Island. And I wanted to do a service about luck, and I wanted to do a service about bad luck, and I wanted to do a service about losing streaks, and about how sometimes it feels like the deck is stacked against us in life. My plan was to rig a deck of cards and play poker with whoever happened to be seated in the front rows in a way that would achieve a certain outcome that was coordinated with my message. Unfortunately, I screwed the whole thing up, and I ended up wasting everybody's time. I fell on my face right in front of the dearest people that I know, and I needed a friend to help me. I'm pretty sure now that the name of that friend was Grace, and I just saw her again last week. We sang a song at the end of that service. We sang America the Beautiful. And when we were singing together, something happened. I can't explain what it was, but somehow it made me feel hopeful. It made me feel that perhaps not everything was lost, and maybe there was still a good way forward. So I stayed, so long as I stayed on the path, there was a good way forward. And so long as I remained open to the miracle, I had learned a lot about humility that day. And years later, I tried to write a song about humility. I'm going to play part of that for you. It's the second verse. Oh, how she burns with graces unearned, tossed by the turning sea. Only the angels can face life so sober and true, embracing the sun and the moon of me. So it's oh, how she burns with graces unearned, tossed by the turning sea. Only the angels can face life so sober and true, embracing the sun and the moon of me. My good part, my shiny part, and the part that falls on its face. I wrote those words to describe a friend of mine, and she hated them. I thought it was beautiful. Oh, how she burns with graces unearned. I was so psyched. And she was like, I hate it. She didn't like the line about graces not being earned. She's proud, she's responsible, and she likes to earn her keep. I wrote that 7 years ago, and we've stayed in absolute touch. And I'm pretty sure she still doesn't like it. So you guys, maybe you know this, but you should know this. This is the departure, and then I'll get back to the reflection. I was recently featured in a music video. So I have about 4.5 seconds of a 5-minute thing. I'll send a link to Joanne this week, and then the song was called Hung Jury. It's by a guy named Nick Mott. Nick works at First Branch Coffee over near Worthy Burger. I see him all the time, and one morning he asked me if I would be kind enough to play the judge in this music video. And it was great. I got to scowl, and I got to pound a gavel and look all judgmental and mean. It was really fun. It was filmed over at the law school, and it just dropped a couple of days ago. So look for it. I'll put it in. I'll send the link around. Nick is super talented as a musician. It's a beautiful song. Did you get a chance to see it? No. Okay. But here's the thing. It's hard for me to express how deeply and how genuinely and how honestly I need you, theologically, to complete my faith. It's a vulnerability, and I don't like to talk about it because I really do need you with how I understand things. I depend on you to see me through to the end of my harder days. I fall down sometimes, and I need support of a beloved community. I'm going to pause for a second, and I'm going to go back up to the pulpit. Okay. So, good morning. Have you ever received a gift that was so beautiful that you really felt like you didn't deserve it? I would like to share something with you, something that was a little hard for me to take. I was driving to South Royalton to get some coffee a few days ago. I get coffee in SoRo a lot. Is SoRo too hip a nickname for, says the woman in the sunglasses in the corner. It took me a couple times to get it myself, and then when I finally did figure out what it meant, I just pretended like I always knew. Anyway, I was on a windy country road, a dirt road, a treacherous road. It was one of my favorite roads, even though it's a dangerous road. Even though my car got stuck in the more than ankle-deep slush mud in the middle of that road a few years ago and needed to be towed out of disaster. And even though I'm not mistaken, combinations of carelessness and tragedy have more than once injured or even taken the lives of friends of mine on that road. It's a dangerous road, but it's also a beautiful road. Because it's rough and natural, maybe, or because it demands close attention. It draws walkers in the morning, in every season, except stick and mud. In the stick and mud season, it does not draw walkers, it draws adventurers. The more challenging the conditions, the more adventurous the travelers. So I was on this road last week, mildly upset with myself, and I realized something about grace. In Christian belief, grace is defined as the free and unmerited favor of God, as manifest in the salvation of sinners or the bestowal of blessings. It is defined as a gift of the Holy Spirit. It is unexpected and undeserved as a gift. And that's hard for me. Grace is a hard thing for me, really, to understand. Forgiveness is easier for me, I think because I am in control of forgiveness. Not in a positive way, like I can't make myself forgive somebody. I can control forgiveness in a negative way, though. I can choose not to foreclose on forgiveness. I can make sure that I don't close my mind to the idea. I cannot let go of a grudge. I can hold on to a grudge with the best of them, if I choose to do that. If I choose to be that kind of person who won't forgive, but I still get to decide. I get to choose for myself whether or not to be open to forgiveness. Grace is different. If you choose to foreclose on forgiveness, then there's no way in the world that forgiveness is ever going to happen. You have to set the table for forgiveness. You have to invite it. Grace is different. Grace shows up whether you ask for it or not. My old friend Arvid used to tell me that forgiveness takes place in its own time and that all we have to do is open the door and not get in the way. He taught me that sometimes the act of opening the door to forgiveness is the only part of forgiveness that is ever really in our hands. When we choose to open the doorway of forgiveness, we choose to do the lion's share of what is asked of us. Grace just doesn't care about any of that. That's a little hard for me. It's hard for me to understand. I recognize grace as a sacred blessing. I teach this in my ministry, but I have a hard time accepting it for myself. It's hard in here. It's hard inside this spiritual life of mine, especially when it comes to grace. I am too often hard on myself. So so was my mentor. My mentor would shudder to think that she delivered this to me as well, but she didn't really, of course. But I identify with her experience. Rebecca Parker is her name. She told this great story of being invited to speak at a conference, a national conference of LREDA. Do you know what LREDA? LREDA is the Liberal Religious Educators Association. There's an association, professional association for the ministers called the UUMA, or the Unitarian Universalist Ministers Association. There's an association for the musicians, for music ministries called the UUMN, and there's an association for the religious educators or spiritual exploration leaders called Liberal Religious Educators Association. And Rebecca was asked to speak for them, and the leader was introducing her. Do you know this story? Megan? Okay, the leader was introducing her, and the leader said, "We are so psyched for the next 3 days. We get to be inside of the mind of Rebecca Parker." And she was on the stage, and she laughed. She thought to herself, but everybody heard her. And so they turned to her and were like, "Why did you just laugh?" And she said, "Well, my mind is a terribly dangerous place. And I try never to go there alone. I identify with this. I see myself in this. In fact, I think like this when I was on the dangerous road to South Royalton that I was telling you about, the dangerous and the treacherous road. Because I think my mind is a dangerous and treacherous thing, but I think it's also a beautiful thing. So now I get insecure about this. It might seem indulgent to say this in the least, to talk about the beauty of one's own mind. But it's very important that we talk about the beauty of our minds, the beauty of our soul's experience in life. When we do, we truly honor ourselves and we truly honor one another. When we do, we honor beauty itself. There was a famous Russian painter named Wasily Kandinsky. And he was an abstract painter in the early 20th century. And he believed that the beauty that we perceive on the outside of the world resonates with the beauty that we know on the inside of the world. For him, the beauty that is abstract, that he chooses to paint, corresponds with a pre-existing beauty that lay within him and lay within everyone who thinks it beautiful. How does that beauty get there? Is it given to us at birth? Is it our spiritual inheritance? Is it the magical part of life's adventure, or is it the part of the normalcy of things? Is it somehow bestowed upon us in sanctuaries, in churches, and in mosques? Or does it splash like mud in the wheel wells of our car as we travel around on dangerous and treacherous and beautiful roads to get coffee? Of course, the answer to all of these questions is yes. So I was driving to South Royalton under mildly challenging conditions, wet dirt roads that are starting to freeze, they're getting a little slippery. And all of a sudden, I had a real sense of the free and unmerited favor of grace, an unexpected, unearned feeling. Just boom, there it was, a little touch of God. It was a subtle kind of boom that said, as if from heaven above, "You are loved, you are worthy, and I will see you through to the end, no matter what." I had a harder week this week because my spirit broke a little. I was pretty mad at myself for not delivering the message that I wanted to deliver last week. I felt like I wasn't clear enough or grounded enough or something. And in these times, it is so important that we come together well. In these times when anxious presidents battle to define what it means to love one's country, when real and rhetorically violent statements threaten the dignity of what it means to be in Congress, when the acid of public acrimony burns to the core of what it means to be a private citizen, it is so important to gather well. One of the reasons why I so deeply love my mentor, Rebecca Parker, one of the reasons that I believe that her mind is so dangerous and so beautiful, is because she will not surrender the dearest things we know. She will not surrender the most beautiful that is within us, that which is larger than the names and the nations and the narratives that we create for ourselves. She suggests to all of her students, of which I am one, that we consider not surrendering as well, each to our gift. The nature of who we are and who we choose to be makes us dangerous and treacherous and beautiful. Sometimes grace looks just like the children that we have, even on the crankiest of days. And sometimes grace looks like the kids that we never have, the dreams that have been lost along the way. Broken one day, I cried to my mentor that I didn't become the son that my parents wanted me to be, that I wasn't the lawyer, that I wasn't the husband, that I wasn't the father of their dreams. I was turning to face some of my deepest fears and sorrows, and Rebecca looked at me with soft eyes, and she said, "There are many ways of being a parent. There are many ways of walking through our lives." I wrote that down in my spiritual notebook, but I didn't really understand it until Grace touched me on the road just this past week getting some coffee. I've been forgiving myself for not becoming the dream of my own anxieties. My parents did not impose their wills upon me. They didn't have to, because I did a whole lot of that myself. And even if they had, and if I had failed them, and even if they had and I had succeeded, life is now not about expectation and anxiety, not about the fears of becoming or the fears of not becoming who or what we think we're supposed to be. It's not about who we're supposed to be at all. And it's never who we are supposed to be that is ever touched by grace. It is only who we are that is touched by grace. And for sure, it feels like the hand of God, or it feels like bliss, or it feels like heaven, and for sure, it feels like everything we ever do, and for sure, it feels like nothing that we've ever known before. It's confounding, even for those of us who think about this all the time. There's an author and a theologian named Nadia Bolz-Weber, and she thinks about grace all the time. And even for her, it's challenging to talk about. And she explained this in an interview she gave just a couple of years ago. And this I quote, she says, "The thing that I have written about and talked about more than anything else in my career is the idea of grace. Grace is really a difficult thing for us because it inherently means that the ball is not in our court. You can't earn it. It's not something that you can climb towards. It's something that you get, and on some level, we think that if it's free, it must be worthless. So I think that people, instead of focusing on grace, like to focus on being good. But being good has never set me free in the way that truth has. I think that the pursuit of being good is a thing that provokes feelings of less than, or shame, or guilt, or insecurity. I fall into that sometimes. I think that shame and guilt and insecurity have been what I've been experiencing this past week, although I'm not sure exactly why. Nadia continues. She says, the reason that grace is tricky is because I want to feel like I've made myself worthy of something. But if grace is truly grace, it means that it has nothing to do with worthiness. It just is, and that's hard. And then also, grace sucks. She says, grace sucks because if it's true for me, then it's also true for the people who might have hurt me. And I definitely don't like that, end quote. She says, with my luck, I will be seated in the heavenly banquet between Ann Coulter and some racist cop. And I feel like I know what Nadia means because I feel the same way, maybe with a little less of a feeling of surprise. And that's just the thing. It's not that others deserve grace and people like us do not. And it's not that people like us deserve grace and others do not. Grace is outside of the category of deservedness. It occurs to me that the reason I'm mad at Ann Coulter and at racist cops is because they have hurt me, and because they have hurt others like me, and because they have hurt others who are not like me. They may have even hurt themselves. They hurt people, and grace doesn't care in the slightest. Because grace is not a reward, it is not transactional, it is not merit-based, it isn't won. It is not achieved or somehow obtained, it cannot be captured, it cannot be conquered. It is not vulnerable to theft. It isn't governed by powers of principalities or nation states. It cannot be loaned or borrowed. It can't be saved or stolen away. I love the theological humility that this forces. Grace sucks because it cannot be controlled, and we like control, especially when it comes to the nature of the holy. There are about 950,000 hymns in the Christian tradition. 415 of them are in the UU hymnal, because we like control when it comes to the nature of God. There are 82 million songs on Spotify, with 100,000 more being added every day. Hung Jury being the best one, with the music video that I'm in. There are as many as 230 million songs that have been digitally recorded, and we cleave to 415. Why? Because we like having a feeling of control. Control fosters tradition, and tradition is wonderful. But tradition is not necessarily grace. Grace is wild, and she's tameless, and she's dangerous, and she's treacherous, and she's beautiful. And when I fall down, grace is the only open hand that will help me to recover. When I fall down, when we fall down, grace is that open hand. And she's not always there in ways that we recognize. In fact, she's rarely there in ways that we recognize, but she's always there. She simply won't submit to our needs of control. The ideas of purity readily submit to our ideas of control, but grace does not. And that's an important difference. There's a distinction, Nadia explains, between purity and holiness. The difference is that holiness is about connection to. Like moments of holiness are about being deeply connected to yourself, or the moment, or to the divine, or to another person. To me, holiness is always about connection to, and purity is ever about separation from. It's like separating ourselves from our desires, but more than that, separating ourselves from people who are impure. Holiness is about connection to, and purity is about separation from. But we pretend that they're interchangeable because purity is easier to regulate. End quote. Some institutional churches stray away from wild grace and holiness, even when using these exact words to describe themselves. And when we do, we end up cleaving to tradition and to purity and to regulation. We regiment the holy. We oversimplify that which is tender and sacred and complex. We weed the blessed miracle right out of the garden, and then we congratulate ourselves on a job well done, when something more beautiful is possible, especially after we have fallen on our faces. We can always call on grace. Oh, how she burns with graces unearned, tossed by the turning sea. Only the angels can face life so sober and true, embracing the sun and the moon of me, my shiny side and my shadow side. We are not only who we are when we have fallen down, and we are not only who we are when we succeed. We are dangerous and beautiful and wild, soft and humble under heaven, held, whole, and honored by a love that knows no bounds in this season of Thanksgiving. May it be so. Blessed be. And amen. If you could see my friend and colleague, Natalie Boltzweber, in person, you would see her as a spectacularly tattooed Lutheran theologian with metal and garb and like just showing as much skin as possible. She's awesome, she's strong. There's a picture of her doing a handstand on one hand. She is spectacularly strong. She is in recovery from alcohol abuse. She's absolutely open about that. She was the one who was saying, I find more holiness in the basements of churches than I do in their sanctuaries. For the inability of this room sometimes to accept the real life journeys of some of us along the way. I don't think that's true here, but let's make sure that as vital as life gets, happens in this room, maybe so. Blessed be and amen.